watching BloombergQuint, and we're about to embark into an interesting legal economic conversation with a noted Supreme Court lawyer. Let me talk you through the premise of today's interview. As the Prime Minister put it in March, Jaan hai to jahan hai. Well, a nationwide lockdown, even if it denied Indians the right to a livelihood, was deemed necessary to protect lives. But after 6 weeks, 7 weeks now, of almost no economic activity, the question must be asked. Is it time for the right to livelihood to reassert itself? Noted Supreme Court lawyer Arvind Datar joins me today to argue that it's time India lifted this crippling lockdown. Mr. Datar, thank you very much for joining us here on BloombergQuint. You argue that it's time for the right to livelihood to be reasserted and for this lockdown to be lifted. Please explain to us why.
First of all, I must say that I'm not saying that throw caution to the wind and just open it overnight. I don't say that at all. But my point is that we are now reaching a tipping point where the lockdown, which if it continues, is going to not only not save too many lives, but it's going to destroy several lives for sheer poverty and hunger. What the government did in the beginning was absolutely right. And as the statistics show, as of today, I just checked the data before we started. We have got about 1,886 people who have died so far in India, which is, if you go on a per million basis or compared to our population, we are way, way below the international mark. We have a total of 56,000 people positive tested cases. Now, the economic consequences are so disastrous. You have the huge issue of migrant laborers. Industry after industry is going to be impacted. And what is most unsettling is, although there is some relaxation, there is no definite roadmap that by the 17th, we're going to have 50% relaxation. By 1st June, it's going to be full relaxation. We simply don't know. It takes industry at least 10 to 15 days to get into this thing. Secondly, if the migrant labor has gone back to Bihar, Jharkhand, or wherever, I don't know how they're going to come back. Are you going to arrange special trains for them to come back? So now you're looking at a situation where, as I said, we are reaching a tipping point, and we have to seriously consider that Article 21 not only talks of right to life, but also talks of right to livelihood. It's okay for us sitting in air-conditioned rooms and fancy hall offices and so on to keep talking about the pandemic and the infection. But you've seen on TV the horrible state of affairs for the poor migrant laborers. Apart from migrant labor, 82% of Indians live on daily wages. You have the people who are running barber shops, salons, the people who are doing day-to-day jobs, the home workers and so on. Everybody is out of work, out of money. And my friends in the construction industry tell me that there are serious psychological issues with the migrant labor because they're doing nothing for 42 days. Many of them have been on site. They have not been allowed to work. They've been pleading with the government that at least the laborers on site can start working. Even that was relaxed only now. And now there is a news that all trains are being arranged, so everybody wants to go back. So I think unless we have a clear map of lifting the lockdown, we'll be in serious trouble. And I'll mention about the courts later also as we go along.
All right. Mr. Datar, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to try and frame this conversation, like you pointed out, in the framework of fundamental rights, both right to life and right to livelihood, because otherwise it just becomes, a set of opinions on whether a lockdown should be lifted or not. So that's one.
Exactly.
And secondly, I'm going to try and argue points both ways. I'm going to try and argue against the argument that you've made, as also for it. The against argument first. I know you pointed out to the data in India, and of course, the number of patients that we have, the number of dead, all of these are much lower than the international mark, as you pointed out. But that's also possibly because we've done far less testing than many other countries in the world have for a variety of reasons. I'm not complaining about it, but we've done far less testing. So we don't really know the full extent of the spread of the virus in India. The numbers that we have could only purely be indicative and not necessarily taken absolutely. That's one. Today we heard from the health ministry that in fact the doubling rate has now gone up. Earlier it was 12 days, now it is 10 days. And in many states we're already seeing a resurgence of cases, for instance, like in Delhi, in Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan. The third point I want to make here is that we have just embarked as a nation on an exercise to bring home over 1 million Indians and that many states fear might lead to a second wave of cases, even though they're preparing to quarantine all of these people. So, given this context, how would any government feel confident that it's time to lift this lockdown or put down a roadmap for the lifting of this lockdown?
Well, first of all, I don't agree that there's on this testing issue, because there will never be enough testing. We have 1,300 million people. Even if you're going to test 20% of the population, you require something like 260 million tests. Now, that's physically not possible given our conditions, given our economic state of affairs. It's just not possible. We don't have enough PPE kits. We can keep on arguing about the various problems we have. What I keep saying is that just go by the fatalities rate. That's the only definite yardstick we got. That's one figure you can't fudge. That one figure you can't sweep under the carpet. If for a country of 1.3 billion people, you've had 2,000 deaths in the last 45, 50 days. Now we have to seriously think that if we are going to continue the lockdown, maybe instead of 2,000, you may not have, say, 4,000 deaths. Suppose you lift the lockdown, suppose the death doubles, you're going to have 2,000 more deaths. It's very difficult, it's very harsh. But for the sake of saving 2,000 deaths, are you going to put 100 million people who don't have any job, don't have any work, don't have any food out on the limb? You and I have no idea what happens to a person who doesn't have daily food and daily water. And mind you, you're going to get a scorching summer. All these people are going back to Bihar, Jharkhand, where the temperatures are in the plus 40s. How are they going to survive? And all we talk is that, there's some doubling of cases, 10 to 12 days. Fine, it's 10 to 12 days, but then you take a call. Hong Kong is open. Sweden never shut down. Japan is still open with all safety measures. This is inevitable. And as Rajiv Bajaj said in an interview, 600,000 people die of flu in any case every year. So I'm asking the question because every day I see on the media, cases are doubled. In some part of Delhi, 20 cases have doubled. So there's a complete panic situation. Everything is shut down. But where are we going? As it is, the economy was in free fall. We had serious issues, and now the COVID-19 problem has started. You just take sector after sector, take travel, take tourism, take airlines. How are you going to stop? You take the other things. Take, for example, the marriage industry, so to speak. Everybody's completely out of jobs. The flower decorators, the orchestra, the caterers, and so on. Can you imagine the staggering domino effect? Let's assume we lift the lockdown and you have the death rate doubles. But then you're going to save the livelihoods of 100 million people, 500 million people. That's my trade-off. It's a sad trade-off, but you have to do it. And that's where your Article 1421 argument comes in, because you can always have a viewpoint. Even now today, some senior director has said that we have to have the lockdown for more than 15 days. But let's have a definite date. Are you going to lock down till 1st June? Are you going to lock down till 30th June? And mind you, you will reach a point where you cannot go back. You will not be able to retrace the step for 3, 4, 5 years. As it is, they say that 60% of restaurants may never open again. I don't know how far that's true. My impression is once the vaccine is there or once the thing, we'll go back to normal. But what is the cost? What's the human cost?
Mr. Datar, I'm the last one to argue against the economic impact because I report on it every single day. But let me put it to you this way.
I'm sorry, it's not just economic impact. It's about actual life, day-to-day lives of people who are not able to survive, who don't have enough food to eat. How many people are distributing food to people? How long can this go on? And what I'm saying is, out of 600 odd districts, why should they be locked down all over? Why can't at least 300, 400 districts start working? Why should all the shops be closed? I don't understand.
Yeah. Sorry, and so you bring me to my next point then, which is that the central government has a few days ago laid down a sort of zonification of India and its various districts based on the number of patients, red, orange, and green. And in green zones, permitted for the opening up of almost all activities, but with certain restrictions. Now, one can see that. I mean, do you see that as a gradual exit from the lockdown and a sufficient exit from the lockdown? Or would you argue, as has been my understanding, that supply chains are so complex that if many districts are still not fully functioning, for companies and businesses to continue working would still be very difficult?
Yes. Now, what I'm saying is, see, ultimately the government knows best. They've got far more data than you and I have to take a decision. Now, one thing is certain, the lockdown cannot continue indefinitely. It's only a question, Are you going to lift the lockdown partially, fully, or in a staggered manner? That's the question. Is not whether the lockdown will continue, but when will the lockdown be lifted? That I think is the real question. And I think that what my friends tell me in the industry is nobody is giving them a clear answer that, look, the auto sector can open in all these states. And I personally feel each state under entry 8 of the list of the Constitution, 7th schedule, public health is a state subject. So each state must take its own call. And in a large country like India, what is applicable to Jharkhand doesn't apply to Tamil Nadu or to Maharashtra. Each state has to take a call. In fact, each district will have to take a call in a sense, if you take it that way. That's why the disaster management is divided into center, state, and districts. So I'm saying that where in states where there have been no deaths, there have been very little cases, I think life should start at least working on normal. And whatever the data is what, I don't think there is any date saying that you can definitely start on a particular date, which Hong Kong did. They've opened up. Public transport is on with all safety requirements. Sweden is working.
Mr. Datar, but are you making the case that therefore this decision making needs to get decentralized? That it shouldn't be the center deciding whether lockdown should get lifted or not? That they should leave it all the way up to district and local governments to make those decisions, without which there would be actually no real resumption of economic activity?
No, I don't say that they should be at the district level. What I'm saying is, we must get the data from districts and then take a decision at the state levels with an overall coordination by the center. I don't say that just go do what you want, but the Constitution says public health is a state subject. Each state is entitled to take its own call when it will start the lockdown, when it will do. But at the same time, we are all interconnected. People are going to move from one state to the other, so no state can act on its own. My only concern is I'm feeling that they're placing far too much importance on the safety concerns and testing and PPEs and so on. And nobody's really paying attention to the consequence on the livelihoods. I mean, we are seeing day after day after day the problems of the industry going on, and there is no solution in sight at all. That's my worry. See, GST collections have gone down, income tax has gone down. Yeah, please go ahead.
There is a graded exit from the lockdown that has been drawn up by the center, sir. Why is that not sufficient for you?
Well, as far as the graded exit is concerned, there is no till today. I don't know if there's any definite date. For example, I don't know when my courts are going to open. I do not know when the other. For example, I don't know any of the thing. Now, for example, shops are open from 10 to 1. They made it 10 to 5. Yes, little bit. But I still, if I go around this city, almost more than 80% shops are still closed. Where is the graded opening? And again, I'm told by people that they're confusing signals. Some people say you can open. Like, for example, a few weeks ago, they told that IT sector could open with 30%, but then the state said you can't open. So again, there is confusion. You show me a data which says that these are categories of industries. Construction can start fully from 15 May. I don't know if there's, even today I spoke to a senior person in CREDAI. I don't think, he also doesn't know exactly when it's going to start. So he says that I require 10 days for me to at least muster the sources. And as he said, he was pleading with the government that at least the workers on site should be allowed to work with whatever safety norm. And that was not allowed. And now they're getting restless. They're seeing people wanting to go back on trains. So they all now want to go back home. And I don't know when they're going to come back. So all of them are worried.
Mr. Datar, maybe there's another way to frame this conversation. You brought up the issue of lack of coordination. The center says in green zones, commercial activity can be, restarted. States and local administrations have different interpretations of this or different ways of administering this. And so maybe, can I argue that the problem lies more in this arbitrary use of executive power, at this pandemic time, than the lifting of the lockdown or any such thing. For instance, whilst the pandemic justifies the sweeping powers that both the center and several states have assumed, these are not being exercised proportionately. They're not being exercised with any balance. The conflicting circulars and the large number of circulars is one great illustration of how, any good intention is only leading to confusion.
Well, I don't have individual data about the circulars, but I do read in the media there are conflicting circulars. In a sense, it's perhaps inevitable in a large country like India. They could not be completely a coherence of all policies. But I'm making a different point on the issue of Article 14 and 21. I'm taking it on a constitutional plane. I'm saying that the right to livelihood is as important as the right to life. And one has to there must be sense of proportionality, which is a part of the constitutional main judgment, that any decision you take must have proportionality. All I'm saying is, like reverse engineering, you suddenly had a lockdown and all of us have, at least those of us who live in the urban areas, we have admirably got down to Zoom conferences and video conferencing. And I've been doing this virtually the same amount of work sitting at home than what I was doing going to my chamber. So we have adjusted. Similarly, why can't we have a situation where we take a call that on 1st June or 10 June, it is going to be 100% zero lockdown. And then we start working that we have to get ready for that. That's what I'm saying, because we have to get the economic activity going, whether you do it partially, whether you do it 50%, graded, etc., whatever term you want to use it. But I'm saying, let us not lose sight of the right to livelihood, the right of industry to carry on business, because without business, without livelihood, what's the point in I don't know. You'll soon come to a state where you'll have far more people dying because of lack of work, hunger, heat waves than you'll have because of the coronavirus, if we don't act very fast. That's the point I'm making.
I get your point fully, Mr. Datar. I'm just questioning it from different points of view to fully understand how one can compel a government, whether it's the central government or the state government, to follow the route that you're laying down. And again, I come back to the point of maybe arbitrary use of executive power. For instance, had this lockdown been accompanied by sufficient financial support to those at least on the who are most impacted by it, then maybe you would not feel as strongly about what you're saying today or you're arguing today. So could it be that, yes, the political decision to take a public health, narrative and shut down the country for several weeks is probably justified, but the fact that it comes with arbitrariness, conflicting circulars, the trampling of rights for migrant labor, insufficient financial support, all of this puts a question mark on that executive decision taken apparently in the interest of public health.
See, now one can always find, no matter what decision the government takes, one can always find fault with this point or that point. It's not going to help anybody. The whole difficulty was this migrant labor problem. None of us knew this would be the magnitude. You can't just blame the government. That this kind of problem would be there, nobody thought. Again, it's a fact that whether COVID-19 or no COVID-19, we don't have a safety net. We don't have a safety net for various reasons. We got our economic difficulties to think of. So we don't have any kind of social security or thing. Your suggestions by people saying, give 5,000 rupees to each person, give rice, give that, all those suggestions are fine. I'm saying all that is behind us now. We have not done it. It's all over now. What I'm just saying is, look at the next 2 weeks, look at the next 3 weeks, look at the next 4 weeks. They're going to be extremely critical unless we act extremely fast. I get your point. What you're saying is that we would not be in this situation if we had given financial help. Where was the money? Now, if they'll ask a question, where is the money? Then you'll say, no, print more notes, give a 10 lakh trillion package. So all those things are okay. I'm saying a simple thing of lifting 50% lockdown. Say 50% be lifted by 17th May, 75% by 24th May, and first 100% or 90% by 1st June, except, as you put it, the very critical red zones, which will have to continue for some more time. That will be the way out. Even courts, for example, 10 times the number of cases are the magistrate courts. There's no video conferencing in magistrate courts. Hundreds of people are in jail. Their bails are not there. Those who have got bail are not able to furnish securities. Why can't these courts work for half a day? Why can't they work twice a week? I'm saying, why just paralyze everything? That's what's bothering me. There's absolutely no reason why the magistrate courts in Chennai, for example, could not have worked Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, or worked half a day. At least take all the bail applications. Or if it's an appeal, criminal appeal, only the two sides are there and the judge. No crowd is going to come to the court. Those cases could have been disposed of. The lawyers would have got some money.
I get the point you're making, but again, I come back to the issue. There is a graded exit on paper. There is a graded exit on paper, exactly what you're saying, that green zones should be allowed to function. Orange zone should be allowed to function up to X%. And red zones, there should be no activity. There is an exit plan on paper, except that it's not working out to the extent that it should, probably because, the argument I was trying to make unsuccessfully with you is this use of executive power has come with zero balance.
No, I won't say it's balanced. See, what you're trying to place the blame fully on the government, saying government is arbitrary, government is. I don't agree with that. It's not correct. What I'm now saying is, I'm only saying that give us definite dates. And I must say that I personally feel that the media has been overly critical of the government for all that. That's my personal view, that I just see nothing but gloom and doom on the TV and so on. Nobody points out the kind of tremendous task that is at hand and the kind of work that has already been done, which is quite substantial in my opinion. But what all the where you're now saying is that the government's action are arbitrary and there is no clarity, there is no this thing. Yes, there is not enough clarity as I say it. But to say that the actions are arbitrary is something which I don't agree at all. I don't think that the actions are arbitrary. The only difficulty I found was they could have taken care of the migrant labor with more kind of food kitchens and so on and so forth. But as I said now that the past is behind us. All I'm saying is I want to know what's going to happen on 17, what's going to happen on 24. That's what repeatedly I'm telling you. And that's where I'm saying that please focus on the right to livelihood now. We have enough of right to life. If you have to lose a certain number of people, it has to be done. Like I told you earlier also, Delhi is highly polluted, but I go and practice there every week. It's a call I take because I need it for my survival, right? So you take a call, you decide what is to be done. And I'm asking you a question. All these construction labor were on site. How many people died of COVID-19? How many people died? Nothing. 1,882 deaths for a country of... No, I'm asking you again and again the question.
I get your point. I do get your point. But may I argue that you choose to go work in Delhi? That's an individual choice, and any harm that befalls on you. This is a contagious, highly infectious disease. So let me put it to you this way. If the government were to, at the state level, central level, local level, whichever government you want to hold accountable for this, if they were to put down definite timelines for opening up, let's say they were to answer your question and say, Mr. Datar, on the 17th, this is what will happen, and auto industry can start on the X date, and X can start on the Y date, right? And if there were to be a resurgence of cases, and if the numbers spiraled upwards very, very sharply, then would not people who may not agree with you hold the government responsible for public health?
You have to try it out. There's no other option. Now, for example, I don't say that you open all the hotels and open all the bars and all the overnight. I don't say that at all. You may have restriction on trains. But what I'm asking is, I'm asking a simple question. All these people have gone by train. All the migrant labor, there was no social distancing for the migrant labor. There was no social distancing in the construction labor. How many people have died? All I'm trying to tell you is that we are taking the yardstick of Belgium and Italy and UK and then making a panic situation in India and shutting down everything for a long time. I'm saying that's my only point. See our own reality. On all construction sites, laborers were staying together. They were staying on site. What is the morbidity? What is the fatality rate? See, that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying that we have to make a model for our own self. And in Germany, Japan, they've got huge social nets. They've got other backups. We don't have that. The person who doesn't work on the construction for 7 days, he's going to starve. That's it.
Okay, I get your point, but I know that there are...
What I'm saying, the point is, okay, fine. You have now relaxed the thing in some days. Has there been a fatal thing? All the pharmacies have been open, right? The pharmacies are open right through. Is there any increase in fatality rate among people working in pharmacies? Answer is no. Answer is no. All of us know that you don't have places like, you don't allow weddings where 5,000 people get together, the big fat Indian weddings as they call them. Maybe that may be postponed, but at least let the industry start working. Let construction start working. You postpone the some sectors where too many people congregate physically. But why can't auto sector, why can't the IT sector open, ITES sector open? And it's very difficult to say work with 10% staff and 30% staff. Open it, then they will take their own precautions.
All right.
I'm sorry.
No, Mr. Datar,
I feel very strongly about it.
I can see and hear that you feel very strongly about it, and I'm sure there are many people out there who would agree with you, and as many who would disagree with you on the public health argument. So let me close this conversation with one.
Yeah, please.
If I were a small business owner whose business now stands in peril because of 6 weeks of shutdown, my life is invested in this business, and I desperately need to start, but I'm not on any of the lists right now which permit me to start my business. And I would like to violate, therefore, the list drawn up by the center or the state and say, hey, I'm going to start my business because my life, my employees' lives, their livelihoods, all of it depends on me restarting the business. And even if the government circulars don't allow me to, I'm going to do so. And what if I come to you, Mr. Datar, and ask you to represent me in case I get into trouble with the government? Would you do so? Would you argue that my right to livelihood at a time like this, allows me to violate the larger public health conversation?
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, no lawyer will support that stand. Whatever it is, suppose tomorrow the government says that I'm going to extend lockdown till the 1st of July, assuming hypothetically. We have to obey it as citizens. That's the rule of law. We follow that. We can, as in a democracy, we can voice our protest. We can give an opposite point of view. But to answer your question, I would not tell a client that, look, just because it's your right to livelihood. For example, take travel and tourism. Suppose the bus operator says, I don't care, I'm going to run my bus. Of course, it's not permissible. I don't say that at all. Yeah, I would not support that at all. I'm not saying no. But I'm just saying that out of 100, if the industry comes to 100 components, 70 of our 80 can start working. The only 10 or 20 have to be cautious. Whereas we are locking down all the 100. That's the problem.
And you don't have confidence in the exit plan that currently exists, because there is a red, orange, and green zone plan.
No. I'm saying it is definitely an exit plan is good. It is all right. But I'm saying that it requires definite timelines, and then they should be. Once you take a call, then don't go back and make variations and so on. You open a liquor shop, next day suddenly you shut it down. This kind of thing will not work at all. You see, you make like IT sector, for example. You first said you can work with 30%, then you said 10%, then some states said we won't allow somebody to work. How does an economy function?
Right.
No High Court has given a disbanding lockdown for courts, for example. How many people are in jail? What about their liberty? There's so many practical issues. So we have to have something coming very soon and very quickly.
Mr. Datar, you make a very interesting argument, and albeit a controversial one as well. I'm sure many industry will agree with you, but there are others who would believe that these are decisions in public health, and therefore, tough calls to make for any government involved. Thanks very much.
I'll tell you. One last comment. I find
Please
that
go ahead.
people are making comments on your side are basically those who have got a safe and secure job and who are not entrepreneurs or not working on a daily wage. I speak to them and I find out they are the people who are really, really waiting for the whole thing to start again. As long as you have a comfortable job and getting, if not 100, at least 80% of your salary, it's okay to say, no, let's continue for some more time and safety and so on and so forth.
That's a point well made, sir. Though at this point in time, nobody's job is a guaranteed job. But thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Datar. I hope I hold on to mine, but thanks very much for joining us. This has been an interesting conversation, and I'm sure it will get many people thinking. Thank you very much for your time.
Me.